And, smoking was part of that. And, when I look at smoking, smoking was the last toxic relationship that I had to get rid of. And, it's taken me a lot of years to get rid of all those toxic relationships. But you know what? I finally did it. And thanks to your program, because I'll tell you, I did everything. I almost died a couple of times.
What? Hi everyone, this is Nasia Davos, and welcome to this episode of Ask an Ex. Every Ask an Ex episode features an inspiring ex-smoker who succeeded with the CBQ method and who shares their personal experience and unique perspective on quitting smoking. And the ex I have with me today joined the CBQ program and quit smoking after 48 years on September 29, 2021, and she's here to tell you how she did it. Please welcome Sheena O'Brien. Sheena, huge congratulations on breaking free from smoking more than a year ago, and thank you for being here.
Well, Nazia, I can't tell you, Nazia, I am just so grateful for the program. You know what? Just such a sense of freedom that I have in my life now that I never ever thought I would ever have because I smoked for so long and it was such a crutch. But, thanks to your program, um, I've been able to just really continue the program on self-improvement and self-care. And if it hadn't have been for the start of this and being able to accomplish what we did in the short period of time the program takes, that was one of my biggest ha-has, that I couldn't believe it only was 10 days. And really, most people will tell you that follow the program and you have to do the work. And it's just like any other program, you have to do the work. If you don't do the work, it's not going to work. So do the work and you'll be very, very pleasantly surprised.
And you have tried so many other methods
How?
as well. You've tried hypnosis, you've tried medication.
Champagne. Oh, medications, Zyban. I think everything that's come out into the market, the spray in the mouth, I've tried it all. And nothing worked for me because I didn't realize it was the mental addiction. And you're the only program out there that has ever dealt with the mental side of the business of the problem, the addiction, because addiction is for a lot of things. And then again, the program has just got so many key points, and like you said, preparation is the key. If you're prepared for it, I mean, waking up on New Year's Eve and saying, I'm quitting, sure, you can do it, but then you don't have mind power. You just use willpower. And willpower only works for a very short period of time because human nature, right? I had a lot of obstacles come my way through life, but you know what? It's made me who I am today. And very thankful that I was, I look at my whole life as just one big toxic relationship from, alcoholic and, it was not a good upbringing. I left home very young age, 16 years old, met my first husband and, really didn't know anything about life in general because, it was not a very good upbringing. But you know what? It was life and I was a rebel. So, I was determined to be not like my mom and um, stand on my own 2 feet. So I left home at a very young age, 16, and I've been on my own ever since. And I've had a lot of triumph, a lot
Wow.
of tragedy, and but you know what? I'm very blessed where I am today. I went to the program, I did it, and I thought, you know what? There was just something about your voice and your um, one thing. I'm a very good student. I can go to school and I can take a course and I'll give it everything I have. And so I thought, okay, this is like a course. So, okay, I'm going to try this. And why about better now? My mom was dying with cancer. My aunt I'm taking care of in the hospital. She's got COPD and she's got COVID. I'm like, it was so in my way. It was just such an annoyance that was in my way, but I couldn't get over that having the first thing in the morning, the last thing in the night. First thing in the morning, the last thing in the night. Like it just, so when I started the program, I said, okay, I'm going to do this. And you know what? I was very, very shocked of how great the program worked. I didn't, because I tried everything. But you know what? You're the only one that talked about first, we got to prepare to quit. This cold turkey stuff doesn't work. We have to prepare to quit. Understand what, and when the smoking journal to me was, um, just such an eye-opener to find out how much I smoked just because A, I was bored, B, keep my mouth shut, just mostly just boredom.
Yeah.
Boredom.
Yeah.
And change. So anyhow, you know what? I gave the program my all, although I didn't find the program difficult. Listen, my husband's still drinking the licorice tea, like he's still drinking. I went out and bought everything that was in the manual. Oh yeah, I'm right into it. I got the manuals and the books, and every morning, like I really enjoyed. I think it was more the challenge. I think of, the challenge of, the fact that, I knew after 5 days I was going to have no nicotine in my system. I looked at it as actually, an ex-husband is kind of how I looked at the
Right.
cigarette and through that the whole thing. And for me, it was great because even though it was my cigarette, I still dealt with it as other issues in my life. I know that sounds bizarre, but you know what I'm saying? Like it was really important for me to just get it, and in fact, I mean, the program for me was really just a stepping stone to keep working on my self-improvement. And, that's one thing I've tried to work on my entire life because of, growing up in an alcoholic home with alcoholic parents, marrying an alcoholic, having children, a daughter that has children when she's a child and can't raise them because she's an addict and have to take on their responsibility. Plus, then lose everything.
Yeah, you broke away away from generational trauma, and
Oh,
you.
oh, totally, totally. And you know what? And it's not just that because you're actually right. You know what? It's the generational trauma of, and in fact, part of the healing for me too was also I read that book, Oprah, What Happened to You? Never mind what do you, and honestly, when I look at the generational trauma that's come through my family over the
Yeah.
years,
So
and
anyhow,
back to the program. The program for me was just it was overcoming the mental addiction was my biggest thing. Um, and just, being preparing. I really took the program seriously. It was I liked the challenge of going out pretending, pretending the non-smoker. And honestly, you were very the group activity. I mean, I still today, watch the group and I try to, I see people that come in and out and to me, the group has been helpful because I don't want to go back to the group and tell them that I relapsed. I mean, you know what? I don't even have any urge to relapse. I mean, that's the thing.
but
Um,
it's a great support
you know,
system to know that this community is there, and
oh, and it's
yeah.
there. And you know what? And they make you feel, to feel that, it's not, yeah, it's just, I just wish I had have found the program many years ago, but I didn't. But anyhow, you know what? I found it when it was right for me, I guess, because you know what? I don't know. But I just hope that, again, I broke the cycle for cigarettes, alcoholics. My daughter's clean now. She's been clean 14 years. My
That's
son's clean. He has so I've really done a lot of work on my whole family. And cigarettes was part of that. So, it's and the other part of it that's been great is that I've really tried to build my horizon, like expand my horizons as far as a person goes. Because when I think of like, look this morning, I haven't smoked. September 29th was my quit date a year ago, and I haven't smoked 5,550 cigarettes. I mean, that to me is
a lot.
huge.
Yeah.
And when I think of the time I wasted in my life smoking, the time I wasted, the wasted time, of thinking that, not under, but again, back to education. I didn't know. I mean, we weren't taught when we were kids. You had cigarette commercials on TV, everybody smoked, and, you had the big long cigarettes with the big long, it was just socially acceptable. And, I was the last one out of all my group to finally quit, the last person. I was the last man standing for sure. But I'm just so grateful for the program because it was, like I said, it's the mental addiction. So not only did it clear that, I mean, it's changed my life dramatically. I do have had more arguments with my husband in the last year than I've had in our whole 12, 15, 14 years married, my second marriage. Because you know what? I speak up for myself now. It's helped me expand. I do a lot more baking. I even tried to tap dance. I thought I could
Nice.
go tap dancing. I tap
Finding your
danced when I was little. But you know what? But I've done all that because it gave me the confidence because of the program. The program really gave me a lot of confidence. Halfway, I mean, and I think a lot of people have said this, almost halfway through the program, you're ready to quit anyhow. And you were very adamant about, continue the program. Even when you've quit, you got to keep going because part of that is the education that you need. So preparation of how do you see your day going? How do you see the day going? So that really was good for me. And then, um, yeah, it was just the preparation of being able to prepare. And, by then, the wedding, I had quit. It was almost like 10 days. I quit the 29th. The wedding was the 11th of October. So I was already into a good week or so without smoking. So yeah, but it was great. I didn't even have to think about it. And I just felt so proud of myself. Like just even the video, like when you see the video of myself and my husband walking down the aisle and it just gives me goosebumps thinking
Oh
about
my God.
just how proud I felt. Uh, just how proud I felt because, just such a big day for me.
Yes.
Oh God, I could cry thinking about it. But yeah, no, it was very amazing. And then like I said, my first holiday. So preparation. And then, there was many times, and I'll tell you right after the wedding, my granddaughter's 24 and she already has one child. She had one child at 21. And so just before the wedding, she was standing there looking at me and I said, "Are you sure you're not pregnant?" Big mistake. My grandma. So anyhow, I never said a word. Well, after I quit smoking, we had the wedding, October 11th. Well, November 2nd, I woke up in the morning and a phone call from upstairs because my granddaughter lives next door to me. No noise, just what? I go upstairs. Anyhow, long story short, my granddaughter had given birth to a baby in the bathroom. We didn't even know she was pregnant. November 2nd.
What?
Okay, now I quit September 29th. So here I am, and I'm thinking if I was gonna quit, I didn't even flinch. Didn't even, I mean, there was few times like that happened to me. There were so many things that happened during that period. And the sad part is, you talk about circle of life. The day that happened, November 2nd, I'm upstairs helping my granddaughter deliver a baby that didn't even know she was having it. And she had a cesarean the first time, so she should never have delivered the second one. And my phone's ringing downstairs. It's my brother to tell me his brother-in-law just passed away. Now, if I didn't start smoking after that, I'll tell you that program's amazing.
Yes. I mean, you need to write a book about your life, first of all. Let me
I'll tell
say
you.
that.
Yeah, my daughter says that too. Yeah, we should do that someday. We should write a book. Yeah, but yeah, that happened. So I'll tell you, and I went through all that. You know what? I was just so grateful because you know what? At the end of it, when my mom was really sick, like I didn't have to go to the hospital, go to the long-term care facility to see her when I could see her, and not have to worry about running out and having a cigarette. And it's just such an amazing sense of freedom in my life. Such a nice to get into a car, and that's what I did. Back to the program. One of the things I did is you said, one of the exercises was pretend you're a non-smoker
Yeah.
somewhere. So my big thing was the
Mm.
car, because I was terrible for smoking in the car. I used to spend a lot of time driving, so I did a lot of smoking in the car. So what I did is I said, okay, that's it. No more smoking in the car. And I asked my husband, God love him, he took the car and he got it all detailed and nice and clean and smelled smoke free. I've never smoked in the car since. But that was like being able to do that, or leave your cigarettes at home and just run down to the store and come back. And parking close to the mall, because I used to park way at the back so I could have a cigarette going in,
Wow.
and then I'd have to have a long, oh yeah, and then I would have a cigarette coming out on the way back. Oh yeah, it was just ridiculous, the amount of cigarettes that I smoked. It was ridiculous. I worked the program, and I used mind power over willpower. Mind power
Yes.
is so important.
Yes.
So important.
What's the
Because, and you know what, all
what's the difference between
sorry,
willpower and mind power in the way you experienced it?
mind power to me takes away the situation, where willpower to me, I still have the craving, but I'm not going to smoke. I'm not going to smoke. I'm not going to smoke. That to me is willpower. Mind power to me is, you know, I always looked at that smoking was doing something positive for me. It helped me cope. It was my best friend. It never let me down. It would reward me. You know what? All like I said, all the toxicness I had in my life, I always had my cigarette. And at the end of my 60-hour work week, whatever it was that week, and having to do everything, and just that sitting down, taking that coffee and the cigarette, and just that. But then I realized after your program that wasn't doing it. It was the
Exactly.
that was giving me the.
Exactly.
And I didn't know that. Like honestly, like to me, like I mean, it sounds so silly, but you think at my age, at 63, you would know stuff like that. Well, you know what? I didn't.
Nobody's teaching.
I didn't. It
Fortunately,
was like a boundary course. Like, and that's the other thing. After I did this course, I just finished doing a boundaries course. Like, I'm 63. I never knew how to set a boundary in my life. Now I have. So again, it's spear marked. It's helped this program not only is to open the door for this because I got away that annoyance, and now I can really focus on me, self care.
yes,
Because my whole life I focused on the entire world
taking care of
except me.
others.
I've always been last.
Mm.
Always, yeah. Since I can remember, since my mom, as a child, I had three brothers. I was the only girl, so my mother depended on me for so much. And then I had my youngest brother take care of him, and I was always you know, that was the go-to person because I was the only girl, right? So, and I took that role because in alcoholic homes, everybody takes on a role, right? So I had to be the responsible one, of course. I couldn't be the clown or, well, thank God, because when I look at my brothers and how they took on the different roles in their life, and you know what, I'm just blessed that I'm me. That's all I can say.
That's
Even though it took me till I was 48 small years to stop smoking, but I finally got there, and hopefully I've caught it in time that, I won't get COPD, or my chances are, I don't get cancer. I've escaped that once, so let's hope it doesn't come back. And, that was back in the day when that was, when I got diagnosed with cervical cancer. This might help you for your program. We went in, there was like 20 of us that day. We were all getting different type of surgery, whether it was, I was getting laser, some people were getting cryo, whatever that was.
okay.
But every one of us smoked. But that was the only thing we all had in common, is that we all smoked. So we all had cervical cancer, just so you know, back in when I was 21. So
You were 20
that happened when I was 21. So,
old.
yeah, 21 when I got diagnosed. Yeah, just after I had my daughter, I got it. I found it after my 6-week checkup. So that's back. Okay, so that's way back then. So yeah, but I smoked through my I smoked. And listen, when I think about it now, when my kids were baby, when I got pregnant with my daughter, I was told not to quit smoking because it would be too dramatic on the baby. So I smoked through both pregnancies, and I actually am embarrassed to say, but I used to have a bottle in one hand, a cigarette hanging out of the other in the middle of friggin' night feeding the baby. Like, how horrible is that?
Yeah.
I shouldn't be telling people that. They put me in children's aid for that nowadays. But you know what? That was just lack of education.
Yes.
People that smoke today in my world, it's not because they don't know. I mean, to me, I always blame it on a lack of education. And then you get the addiction, right? And once you're addicted, and my brother and I had this conversation yesterday because I said to him, how you doing? He said, well, 141 days for me. And he said, you know what? I wish I'd done it sooner. And I said, it's the same with me, cigarettes. I said, but I know if I have that one smoke, I know if I have that one cigarette, I'll be right back, because that's exactly, and you know what? And because of your program, do not in my life want to have to say to my family, I caved, or I couldn't do it, because you know what? It's only that second, it's like that stop, like that flash of a second. Like, get it out of your head and move along. And when I started smoking, cigarettes were 56 cents a pack, okay? 56 cents a package. And it was easy money because my mom gave me 50 cents for lunch, and then 6 cents was easy to find. So, I mean, so that shows you, I don't know how people afford it today. I couldn't do it. I couldn't afford, as a child, if I was starting when I was young, I couldn't afford cigarettes today.
Of course. And Sheena, now that you went through the program, you quit smoking, you did all these wonderful things for yourself. You went also through all these challenges. Looking back, how has this process impacted your life?
Well, financially, it's been great because, I still spend the money. I thought I would try to save it, but, I still spend it, but I just, I don't know, I spend it on myself. I still spend the money. So it's a lot more fun. I can go shopping. I mean, everybody else seems to like it. I'm trying to slow down a little bit, but you know what is I can't even tell. It's just the sense of freedom I have. Like I get up every day. I don't have there's that monkey on my back. I just like it's not. I can't even explain to you. And I guess it's like any type of addiction. It gnaws away at you every single day, and like that you're doing is wrong, and and you're like, yes, okay, tomorrow. So I don't have that anymore. That's gone. That's out of my life. And now I can focus myself on other things. Like I don't have to think about that. So all that time that I had left, and now it's like, what do I do with myself with all this time? So, I've, going to volunteer at the long-term care facility, help feed the meals, something. I have to do something because you're so used to taking care of things that you have to take care of something. So so I'm starting to try to expand my horizons and try to expand my life a little bit and then, just kind of take it easy because I did have a rough go for the first 63 years. And, so I'm enjoying being a grandma, a great grandma, traveling. I'm very blessed because I have children that are my own children. Plus, I have my grandchildren that are older. I have younger grandchildren. I have little babies that are great grandchildren. So I have all that fulfillment in my life. I'm very, very blessed, you know. But yet again, there's been so much change because I've lost so many significant females in my life. I only have one left, and that's been a tough go. But, now I can just focus on the next generations and hope that, they don't pick up the bad habits. But you know what? One thing I've learned that they're going to do what they're going to do, whether they're going to do what they're going to do. Doesn't matter what generation it is. They got their own minds. And all you can do is get them ready for the next level and hope you get them.
Exactly. And be that example for them because that's the best thing.
Exactly. That's all
You
you can
can say
do.
a lot
And like I
who
said,
you are that inspires them, right?
yeah, that's right. And just the fact that, you can hold your head up and, I don't know. I just feel really good about myself. And like you can do anything you put your mind to as long as you have the proper tools and you have replacement therapy, something replacing because really there's a reason, like you said in the program, there's people smoke for a reason. There's a need that they're trying to fulfill. So what is that need? Get to the bottom of what the needs are, and, yeah, yeah. So it's key. It's working on yourself. So, but your program's amazing. I would recommend it to anybody. In fact, somehow you should get it into these hospitals. Get this medical. I don't know how you do that, but if you get that into the medical centers where, especially when I look at the long-term care facilities for some of these people are still smoking. I see this poor man out there every day and he's killing himself, like cough, 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 cough. But you know what? He's been doing it for his whole life. He probably doesn't know how to stop.
Exactly.
It's a shame,
Yeah.
It's a shame, but you know what? There is programs out there. And that's the other thing, it's just making sure that, everybody that like I don't know what your success rate is, but it's got to be high up there. That's one thing do you know what your success rate
Yeah,
is?
it's nine.
It's got to be way high
It's
up.
94%, 85% do it the first time, and the rest on the
Yeah.
second or third time. Because
Well, that's amazing because back to addiction counseling, like okay, because there's been so much alcoholism in our family, I've had, quite a few members go through the program more than once, sometimes two, three times. I'm talking about AA and all that. And, I remember going to Hope Place and this was my sister-in-law this time that had her son at the family day. And I just said to her, like, what is the success rate of your program? And it was so low. So I don't know. You're put on this earth. I don't know how you get your program into these AA programs, because I think whatever they're missing in AA, you've got it. So if you can hook up with somebody out there, I'll tell you to do that. That would be just, you imagine the lives you would change. I mean, how many lives have you changed already? Think about it. Oh my God, you're an angel.
I,
Amazing.
truth is,
Did you ever think you would get on?
the truth is that people change their own lives. It's just the program, and I am a tool, but I'm not changing. I don't have the power of changing anyone's lives. Is people change their own lives, and that's why it lasts. And that's what the program is for, because it's about empowering you to take control of your mind And that's the thing, isn't
Exactly.
it? Yeah.
That's what's sick. The mind, yes. Because I'll tell you, this mind has been one of my biggest, when I look at life, my whole life, my mind is, I've been so hard on myself. It's been, like, when I look at my life, I've been so hard on myself. But, that's just your upbringing. I mean, it's just who you are.
What advice would you have for someone who they feel that their cravings are overpowering, they don't know where to start, they don't know how to prepare, they think they need to go cold turkey? We all have been there. What would be your advice for that person?
Don't go in with an open mind. Anybody that's at that point that are at the point where they're trying your program have gone through lots to get there, I'm sure, or maybe not, but a lot of majority of people have smoked a long time. So give the program, have an open mind, and give the program a chance. And when I was doing my hypnosis and paying the $600 for that, I mean, I didn't even think about it. Like, you know what I'm saying? But it's just got to stick with the program. Work the program and stick with the program. And you know what? You're going to have a very, very great sense of freedom in your life. And you're going to feel so much better. And you're going to look so much better because your clothes are going to smell. Everything's going to be better. Honestly, life is better without nicotine. That's for
So
sure.
trust the process and
For
trust
sure.
that things will be better and you're doing the right thing for yourself by quitting smoking.
Yeah, follow. Like I said, if you follow the program every day, follow your program, which is get up in the morning. I had, use the right that 1 hour when I think, oh my goodness, I have to wait that 1 hour before I can have a cigarette tomorrow. Like I don't even think I could go fall asleep thinking I'll never. But you know what? It was like, okay, so tomorrow you're going to do that. So you're going to, and it's just little baby steps. And that's what I find with the program. The little baby steps turn into one big step. And then all of a sudden it's the 10 days. And I was terrified. And I actually, the day before my quit date, I didn't, I went over my cigarette count. I wasn't supposed to smoke, but I had a really bad day that day. And it was, and I was going to start my day over again. And Judy said, or was it Judy said, no, 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 just keep going. Tomorrow's day 10. Just go like, and you know what? I was surprised. But the actual one thing we didn't talk about was the going away party or the final cigarette. And my husband videotaped it. And I cried and I read my goodbye letter and I sobbed. I sobbed. And I was, you know what? It was the best therapy in the world. And I think back to my son saying to me, Mom, that's what we did when I went to the counselor and, I had to write a letter to somebody that he wanted to say goodbye to. And we went down, him and his sister did it together. And he said we did the same thing. And I'm like, oh my goodness, it's the same type of thing. It's the same type of therapy, cognitive behavior therapy. So you know what? If you're not taught the tools as a young child, you don't learn them because you're too busy learning other things to, and then, you know, I'm just so grateful. That's all I can tell you.
I
Grateful.
appreciate it. And
And all the new coping
mm,
mechanisms, because the deep breathing and all that, you can use that for
yes,
lots of things. The deep breathing is a definitely really good program, a really good method. So
yes,
anyhow, just
so much.
keep doing it.
Thank you so much. And I love what you shared about the goodbye letter and the ritual of your last cigarette, because it's important to let it go and saying goodbye,
Oh, yeah.
crying it out, whichever way. Just have a moment where you don't, you're letting it go. So
Oh, and then after that program, after the goodbye, I find about a week after you quit, then you have there's one day, and I think I've seen other people write about it too. There's one day that is the most emotional day of your whole life, and you spend the whole day crying, and you don't know why you're crying, but you know what? I think it's all part of the withdrawal or whatever, part of the program. And but yeah, that's been you know, I'm just so grateful. I can't even tell you how grateful I am. I've said it 100 times, but I am very grateful.
I so much appreciate it, and I am grateful that you made the time and came to and shared your story so openly and so honestly. So thank you so much for sharing your journey and your empowering perspective on quitting smoking. You are a shining example of what's possible and of breaking
Okay.
away from many years of unhelpful behaviors. So I know the advice you shared will help many others on a mental way and on a practical way as well. So thank you. I am grateful as well.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. So thank you for your time, and I'm looking forward to seeing the final product.
If you're here watching this video right now, please leave a comment below and let Sheena and I know what you're taking away from her amazing journey that can help you in yours. We're looking forward to reading your comments. Thank you for being here. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you very much. Wonderful.